Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt like you were peering into their very soul? Or perhaps you've caught a glimpse of your own reflection and wondered, what does the color of my eyes say about me? Eyes have been called the windows to the soul, but did you know that the color of those windows can reveal a lot more than just your genetic makeup? It's fascinating how something as simple as the color of our eyes can be tied to both science and deep psychological symbolism. In today's video, we're diving into the mysterious world of eye color and what it might reveal about you. From ancient beliefs to modern science, we'll explore how different eye colors influence our perceptions, personalities, and even the way we interact with the world around us. So, sit back, relax, and let's explore the hidden meanings behind the eyes that captivate us all. The ancient saying, "The eyes are the windows to the soul," has endured for a reason. Eyes are the first thing we notice about a person, often more so than their face or body. They are the focal point of our attention, drawing us in with their intensity, vulnerability, and mystery. But beyond their function of vision, eyes hold an almost mythical significance. For centuries, cultures have believed that eyes can reveal the true nature of a person's character, desires, and even their soul. Why does eye color hold such a powerful grip on our attention? The answer is both biological and psychological. Human beings are hardwired to pay attention to eyes. They are the emotional center of communication, where we seek connection, understanding, and sometimes even a reflection of ourselves. The color of someone's eyes can be the key that unlocks deeper, more nuanced feelings and intuitions about that person. It's not just about the shade of brown, blue, or green. It's about what that color represents and how it influences our perception of others. But it goes beyond mere attraction or intrigue. Eye color has been studied by psychologists and anthropologists alike. From an early age, we're taught that there's a psychological dimension to how we perceive the world. We instinctively associate colors with certain traits or moods, and our eyes are no exception. A person with blue eyes might evoke feelings of calmness or mystery, while brown eyes might feel more grounded and dependable. Even in ancient Egypt, the goddess Hathor was often depicted with large, almond-shaped eyes, symbolizing the connection between eyes and the soul's wisdom. Eyes are often seen as a reflection of our innermost emotions, sometimes even revealing more about us than we realize. In moments of vulnerability, we've all experienced that undeniable connection when someone looks us in the eye. It feels as if we're being seen, understood, and acknowledged in a way that words can't capture. There's a profound power in this silent exchange, making the color of eyes more than just a physical trait, but a gateway to our emotional and psychological landscape. In psychology, the color of someone's eyes is often linked to deeper symbolic meanings. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that much of our unconscious mind is revealed in subtle ways, including through our physical traits. The eyes, as one of the most expressive parts of our body, offer a unique look into the inner workings of our psyche. The color of your eyes might tell a story of your ancestry, your inner world, and even your emotional makeup. For example, blue eyes have long been associated with mystery, intuition, and a sense of detachment from the world around us. People with blue eyes are often perceived as more thoughtful and introspective, traits that make them appear enigmatic or elusive. On the other hand, brown eyes are considered warm, dependable, and deeply connected to the earth. They are often linked to people who exude a sense of stability and comfort, making them feel approachable and trustworthy. In this way, the color of the eyes has been imbued with layers of symbolism that extend far beyond simple genetics. The allure of eye color doesn't just lie in what it says about an individual, it also speaks to something deeper within us. Our personal biases and emotional reactions to different eye colors reveal a lot about the archetypes we carry within. The color of our eyes can trigger an emotional response that is often subconscious, tied to memories, experiences, or even our deepest desires. For instance, someone with green eyes might evoke a sense of magic or rebellion, while someone with gray eyes may symbolize a more ancient wisdom or mystical aura. Ultimately, the color of your eyes serves as a symbolic tool, a mirror reflecting your inner self, your experiences, and your connections to the world around you. Whether you are aware of it or not, the eyes you gaze into each day are revealing more than just a surface-level appearance. They are portals to the soul, allowing us to navigate the complexities of human nature and our relationships with others. When we talk about eye color, we often think of simple shades, blue, brown, green, and everything in between. But have you ever wondered how these colors come to be? It's not just about the genes we inherit from our parents, though genetics plays a crucial role. Eye color is determined by the amount and type of pigments in the iris, and the way light interacts with these pigments. The melanin, a pigment responsible for the color of our skin, eyes, and hair, is what gives our eyes their distinct hue. The more melanin you have, the darker your eyes will be. Brown eyes, for example, are rich in melanin, while blue eyes have a much lower concentration. But the science doesn't stop there. The structure of the eye and how light scatters across the surface also influences the perceived color. It's a delicate dance between genetics, the environment, and the natural laws of light that creates the beautiful spectrum of eye colors we see in the world. Eye color is inherited through complex genetic mechanisms, with several genes working together to determine the final outcome. The OCA2 gene, located on chromosome 15, is the most significant player in this genetic puzzle. It controls the production of melanin in the iris. People with 2 copies of the dominant brown eye gene will have brown eyes, while those with 2 copies of the recessive blue eye gene will have blue eyes. The interaction between these genes and other modifier genes creates a wide variety of shades, from dark brown to light blue and everything in between. Interestingly, the vast majority of the world's population has brown eyes, but blue eyes are relatively rare. In fact, it is believed that all blue-eyed individuals can trace their ancestry back to a single common ancestor who lived around 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Blue eyes are the result of a genetic mutation that affects the amount of melanin in the iris, making them one of the most intriguing and unique eye colors in human history. But the science of eye color is not just about genetics. Over time, our environment and geographic location have also influenced the prevalence of certain eye colors. For example, blue eyes are most common in regions of Europe, particularly in the northern and eastern parts, while brown eyes dominate in regions like Africa and Asia, where higher levels of melanin helped protect against intense sunlight. In fact, the distribution of eye colors around the world is a direct reflection of our evolutionary adaptation to our surroundings. Interestingly, green eyes, which are often considered one of the rarest shades, have a unique genetic origin. Green eyes are the result of a combination of low to moderate melanin levels and a phenomenon known as the Rayleigh scattering, which causes light to scatter in a way that gives the eyes a greenish hue. This phenomenon is similar to why the sky appears blue on a clear day. It's a perfect example of how nature's complexities can shape something as simple as the color of your eyes. The variety of eye colors in the human population is also a reflection of genetic diversity. The fact that eye color can range from the deepest brown to the lightest gray highlights the endless possibilities within our genetic makeup. But it's not just about appearance. Eye color can sometimes be a subtle reflection of our heritage and the long-forgotten genetic tales that have been passed down through generations. In a sense, the eyes we inherit are not just a physical trait, but a genetic signature, revealing the paths our ancestors traveled and the regions they once called home. While we often think of eye color in purely aesthetic terms, it's worth remembering that it is part of a much larger story, one that connects us to our evolutionary roots and the rich tapestry of human history. Your eye color is a unique marker of your individuality, but it also carries with it a legacy, a memory, and a link to the generations that came before you. And when we look into someone's eyes, we're not just seeing a color, we're seeing a glimpse of the genetic story that made them who they are. There's something undeniably hypnotic about blue eyes, Whether they resemble the pale gray of an overcast sky or the deep sapphire of an untouched lake, blue eyes have long been enveloped in myth, fascination, and longing. In many cultures, they've symbolized mystery, purity, and at times even supernatural insight. Part of this allure is due to their relative rarity. Globally, only about 8 to 10% of the population has blue eyes, with the highest concentration found in Northern and Eastern Europe, but their impact is far larger than their numbers suggest. Historically, blue eyes have been idealized in Western storytelling and visual media. Think of the fairy tale heroines, the angelic children in religious paintings, or the cool, emotionally distant protagonists in cinema. These portrayals often cast blue-eyed individuals as ethereal, sometimes even otherworldly, a fascination that has less to do with the individual and more to do with the archetypal weight blue eyes carry in the collective imagination. They become less about biology and more about what we project onto them. Carl Jung would likely interpret our collective idealization of blue eyes as a projection of certain archetypal images, perhaps of innocence, detachment, or even transcendence. Blue, after all, is the color of the sky, the ocean, the divine. It's the hue of distance and depth, of things far away and hard to grasp. So when we look into blue eyes, we may unconsciously feel as if we're staring into something vast, cool, and unreachable. Something that resists full comprehension. It's not the eyes themselves, but what they represent emotionally and symbolically that casts the spell. But this symbolic weight also carries a subtle psychological toll. Blue-eyed individuals are often perceived as emotionally aloof or less approachable. Because we assign them roles of dreamers or distant mystics, we may struggle to see their vulnerability, their warmth, their humanness. This can result in a strange paradox, being idealized while also being misunderstood. Blue eyes become a canvas for projection, where people see what they long for or fear, not necessarily what is real. Scientifically, blue eyes are a result of a genetic mutation affecting the OCA2 gene, which controls melanin production in the iris. With very little melanin present, the blue hue is not from pigment but from Rayleigh scattering, the same phenomenon that makes the sky appear blue. In essence, blue eyes aren't blue in the traditional sense. They are structurally colorless, their appearance created by the way light reflects and refracts through the layers of the iris. And yet, something about knowing they're an optical illusion only adds to their mystique. Like a mirage, blue eyes shift and flicker depending on the lighting and angle. They can appear ice-cold in one moment and tender in the next. This shape-shifting quality only deepens their psychological and emotional impact. People with blue eyes often report being perceived differently based on their mood, their eyes reflecting more than emotion, becoming something almost transcendent in moments of stillness or sadness. In spiritual and mystical circles, blue eyes have sometimes been associated with old souls, empaths, or people said to be more spiritually sensitive. Whether these beliefs hold any truth isn't the point. The fact that such stories persist tells us something about the archetypal resonance of this eye color. Blue eyes have been woven into tales of prophecy, intuition, and quiet wisdom, often casting their bearers in roles of observers rather than participants, as if they see the world from a place slightly outside of it. This outsider narrative can influence how blue-eyed individuals come to understand themselves. They may be treated as rarities, idolized, envied, or kept at arm's length. Some might internalize these perceptions, identifying with the idea of being different or emotionally distant, even when it doesn't align with who they truly are. Blue eyes, in this sense, become more than a color. They become a psychological identity, shaped by others' projections and the stories we all unconsciously carry about what beauty, depth, and mystery look like. Brown eyes are often overlooked in conversations about uniqueness or intrigue, perhaps because they are the most common eye color worldwide. But this very commonness belies a rich emotional and symbolic depth. In psychological and mythological frameworks, brown is tied to the earth, to roots, to foundation. It is the color of stability, warmth, and protection. People with brown eyes are often seen, consciously or not, as reliable, approachable, and emotionally strong. There's a reason why brown eyes tend to evoke feelings of safety. They reflect light differently than lighter-colored eyes, often appearing soft, inviting, even soulful. In emotional conversations, people often describe brown-eyed individuals as easy to talk to, easier to trust. Their gaze, rather than being piercing or distant, tends to pull you in, not with intensity, but with a kind of gentle grounding. Jung might suggest this is a projection of the archetype of the caretaker or the guardian, someone whose eyes reflect a deep well of empathy and presence. There's also a historical and cultural layer to how we perceive brown eyes. Across centuries, in societies around the world, brown eyes have been the default, the norm, but that doesn't mean they've lacked power. In many ancient traditions, brown-eyed individuals were seen as being closer to nature, more connected to instinct and ancestral knowledge. Earth-colored eyes symbolized the blending of body and spirit, intuition and action. They were seen as people who didn't need to shout their wisdom, they embodied it. From a psychological standpoint, brown eyes may be unconsciously associated with loyalty, depth, and emotional intelligence. In relationships, both platonic and romantic, brown-eyed people are often perceived as dependable, not necessarily the ones to stand out in a crowd at first glance, but the ones who stay, who listen, who offer the kind of quiet presence that makes others feel held. Their eyes speak in warm tones, communicating not dominance or mystery, but a reassuring sense of, "I'm here and I see you." Genetically, brown eyes are dominant because they result from a high concentration of melanin in the iris. This melanin not only deepens color, but also offers greater protection from the sun's harmful rays, a crucial adaptation in areas of intense sunlight like Africa, Asia, and Latin America. In this way, brown eyes are deeply tied to resilience, to the body's capacity to endure, adapt, and protect itself over generations. But there's something symbolic, too, in how brown eyes absorb light rather than reflect it. Unlike blue or green eyes, which scatter and reflect light more dramatically, brown eyes tend to hold light, pulling it inward. This is part of what gives them that soulful, stable quality. Metaphorically, they become containers of emotion, of experience, of wisdom that doesn't need to be projected or performed. There is power in quiet strength, and brown eyes, often underestimated, embody that with unshakable grace. In many spiritual traditions, brown eyes are considered grounding. People with this eye color are often seen as having a natural connection to the physical world, to family, to tradition, and to responsibility. There's a symbolic maturity in brown eyes, as if they belong to those who've walked through life with their feet firmly on the ground. They may not carry the same mystique as blue or green eyes, but they carry something just as valuable, a sense of wholeness, reliability, and soulfulness. And perhaps that's what makes them so enduring. In a world that often chases the extraordinary, brown eyes remind us of the beauty in the ordinary, the magic in the mundane. They don't seek to be worshipped or desired for their rarity. Instead, they offer connection. They invite closeness. They are not mirrors of distance or mystery, but reflections of home, of rootedness, of warmth, of the kind of human depth that transcends appearance and speaks directly to the heart. Green eyes have always walked the line between beauty and danger, allure and resistance. They are the rarest natural eye color, occurring in less than 2% of the population globally. And this rarity has created a sense of mystique around those who have them. In literature, folklore, and film, green eyes often belong to rebels, sorceresses, or enigmatic outsiders. There's a wildness to green, a sense that it cannot be tamed. It evokes forests, storms, and the fierce independence of nature itself. Unlike the steady calm of brown eyes or the cool distance of blue, green eyes are often described as alive, shifting with light, emotion, and mood. They're not simply a color, they're a temperature, a tension between serenity and unpredictability. Perhaps that's why, in symbolic terms, green is associated both with growth and with envy, with flourishing life and with the restless desire for more. Those with green eyes are often cast, rightly or not, as complex, emotionally rich, and unconcerned with convention. In the realm of mythology and Jungian psychology, green eyes can be seen as the manifestation of the anima or animus archetype, the feminine or masculine energy that dwells in the unconscious. Green as a color lies between blue and yellow, between logic and emotion, intellect and instinct. It becomes a symbol of integration, of contradiction, of mystery. Green-eyed characters in stories often represent the disruption of the status quo, the ones who arrive and change everything, not by force, but by presence alone. But there is also danger in that presence. Green eyes are often given to characters who are witches, seductresses, revolutionaries, or unpredictable heroes. This reflects a deep cultural ambivalence. We admire green eyes, but we also project onto them a kind of suspicion. Their rarity makes them desirable, but their perceived intensity makes them threatening to those seeking control or simplicity. In this way, green eyes symbolize the chaos of desire, the impulse that won't be reasoned with or neatly explained. From a biological standpoint, green eyes are produced by a combination of low melanin levels, like blue eyes, and a subtle presence of pheomelanin, a yellowish pigment. The resulting interplay of light and color creates hues that can range from emerald to jade to golden green. Much like blue eyes, the green is not a pigment itself, but a product of light scattering, which means green eyes often seem to change color depending on the environment and lighting. This gives them a chameleon-like quality, further feeding their reputation for unpredictability. This visual mutability can lead to social perceptions of green-eyed individuals as moody, deeply intuitive, or even emotionally volatile, traits often projected onto them regardless of their true nature. But many people with green eyes report feeling like outsiders or misfits growing up, like they were set apart not just physically but existentially. Their gaze carries both a spark of curiosity and a layer of defense, as if they see more than they're willing to let on. Their eyes become mirrors and veils at once, revealing little, suggesting everything. In spiritual traditions, green is the color of the heart chakra, the center of compassion, connection, and emotional truth. This association adds another layer to the symbolism of green eyes. They become symbols of love that isn't tame, of passion that doesn't play by the rules. Green-eyed people in this light represent the part of us that longs for authenticity even if it costs us comfort. They symbolize the soul's refusal to settle for appearances or silence its own wild voice. There's a reason we've placed so many stories, fears, and fascinations into this particular hue. Green eyes stand at the crossroads between myth and biology, between archetype and individuality. They resist simplification. They suggest not only uniqueness, but contradiction, soft and sharp, magnetic and mysterious, wild yet deeply human. And perhaps that's their deepest magic. They reflect our yearning for something that can't be predicted, only felt. Hazel eyes defy simple definition. They are not brown, not green, not amber, but a dynamic, ever-changing fusion of them all. Depending on the lighting, the time of day, even the mood of the person, hazel eyes might shift from gold to olive, from deep bronze to a flicker of emerald. This constant transformation is what makes hazel eyes so compelling and so symbolically rich. In a world obsessed with clarity and labels, hazel eyes whisper something different. You can't quite define me. Psychologically, this ambiguity taps into a universal archetype, the shapeshifter. In mythology and Jungian theory, shapeshifters are those who move between worlds, who adapt to changing realities, who carry multiple identities within them. Hazel-eyed individuals often report feeling like they contain many selves, or that others see them as flexible, intuitive, and impossible to pin down. Their gaze seems to shift with the emotional weather, reflecting not just light, but the moods and energies around them. From a genetic standpoint, hazel eyes result from a moderate amount of melanin combined with the same scattering effect that gives blue and green eyes their color. What's different with hazel is the distribution of pigment. It's uneven, often radiating out from the pupil in layers or bursts. This causes the eyes to reflect a mosaic of tones, creating a unique interplay between structure and light. The very biology of hazel eyes mirrors their symbolic meaning: complexity, adaptability, and hidden depth. Culturally, hazel eyes haven't always received the same level of fascination as blue or green, but that's changing. In storytelling and visual media, they're often assigned to characters who are multidimensional, those who don't fit into binaries of good or bad, light or dark. Hazel eyes signal that this is a person who might surprise you, who might see the world through multiple lenses at once. There's a quiet rebellion in their refusal to stay the same. Emotionally, people with hazel eyes are often perceived as empathetic and perceptive, but also guarded. Their gaze doesn't give away everything at once. Unlike the open warmth of brown eyes or the icy allure of blue, hazel eyes seem to carry a boundary, not a wall, but a filter. You get glimpses, flashes, suggestions. And because of this, others often project their own desires or stories onto them, reading into every flicker of color or change in mood. Jung might say that hazel eyes symbolize the individuation process, the dance between our outer persona and inner shadow. They hold opposites in tension: the fire of amber, the calm of green, the grounding of brown. And just like the process of becoming whole, hazel eyes never settle. They are in motion, in transformation, always asking the viewer to look deeper, to question what they think they see. That ambiguity becomes a kind of mirror, forcing others to confront their own need for certainty. Spiritually, hazel eyes are often associated with intuition, sensitivity, and inner alchemy. They symbolize the ability to hold complexity without collapsing into confusion. People with hazel eyes may feel deeply connected to others, yet still fiercely independent. They are often described as observers, people who stand slightly outside the center, gathering insights, seeing patterns others miss. Their gift is their ability to adapt, not by becoming someone else, but by allowing their inner multitudes to coexist. There is a quiet power in hazel eyes. They don't dominate the room, but they don't disappear either. They shift, they respond, they reflect. And in a world that often demands that we choose who we are and stay fixed, hazel eyes offer a different model of selfhood, one that is fluid, evolving, and unapologetically complex. To look into hazel eyes is to feel both mystery and familiarity, as if the person before you contains not just one truth, but many waiting to unfold. Gray eyes are like mist, elusive, quiet, and often hard to define. Less common than blue or brown, gray eyes seem to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving them an opaque, even steely quality. But this stillness is misleading. Beneath their calm surface is a depth of emotion and perception that often goes unnoticed. Where blue might dazzle and green might spark, gray eyes tend to watch, to observe, to withhold. And it's precisely this restraint that gives them their enduring power. People with gray eyes are often perceived as old souls, not necessarily because of wisdom in the academic sense, but because they tend to carry a quiet intensity, as if they've seen more than they say. Their emotional lives may be complex, but not chaotic. They feel deeply, but rarely perform their feelings. Their eyes become a veil, not because they hide something, but because what's there requires silence, not spectacle. Jung might interpret this as the archetype of the sage, the inwardly guided one who sees through the noise of the world. From a scientific perspective, gray eyes have even less melanin than blue ones. Like blue and green eyes, their color is the result of light scattering in the stroma, the front layer of the iris. But in gray eyes, the structure of the iris scatters light in such a way that very little color is reflected, creating a silvery, smoky, or sometimes storm-like hue. This means that gray eyes often appear to change with the weather, the clothing worn, or the emotional state of the person, becoming mirrors for the world around them. Symbolically, gray has long been associated with neutrality, balance, and introspection. It is neither black nor white, but the meeting point of both. It represents paradox, wisdom without arrogance, strength without aggression, emotion without volatility. In storytelling, gray-eyed characters are often advisors, prophets, or quietly powerful presences. They rarely demand attention, but when they speak, people listen. Their gaze isn't loud, but it's undeniably penetrating. Emotionally, those with gray eyes are often viewed as self-contained. This doesn't mean coldness, though they are sometimes misread that way. Rather, it suggests a kind of inner gravity, an ability to hold their own experience without needing to share or seek constant validation. In relationships, they might be slow to open up, but when they do, their loyalty runs deep. Their emotions, once revealed, carry the weight of thought, memory, and deep reflection. They don't feel lightly, but they also don't feel loudly. This can make gray-eyed individuals deeply empathetic without being emotionally entangled. They listen without reacting, observe without judgment. People often feel seen in their presence, not because they're being analyzed, but because the gray-eyed person seems to hold space without filling it. Jung might describe this as the integration of the shadow, a person who has made peace with contradiction, who doesn't project but perceives, who doesn't need clarity to be certain. In mystical and spiritual circles, gray eyes are sometimes seen as belonging to watchers, guardians, or seers, those who walk between the seen and unseen. Gray, being the color of twilight, of the in-between, suggests a liminal quality. Not quite here, not quite there. This gives gray eyes a spiritual resonance. They often belong to people who are drawn to the inner world, who seek depth over display, who live quietly but with great meaning. What gray eyes reflect is a kind of internal wisdom, not the kind you read in books, but the kind that is earned through silence, solitude, and experience. They are not eyes that demand to be admired. They are eyes that invite reflection. Looking into them can feel like standing before a still lake. You don't just see the other person, you begin to see yourself mirrored back in unexpected ways. Our eyes don't just reveal emotions, they shape them. Even before we speak a word, the color of our eyes can influence how others perceive us. This effect operates beneath conscious awareness, like an emotional reflex. Research in social psychology suggests that people instinctively associate certain eye colors with particular traits. Brown eyes, for instance, are often linked to trustworthiness and warmth, while blue eyes are sometimes seen as cooler, more analytical, or distant. These impressions may not be accurate, but they are persistent. Eye color becomes part of the emotional context through which we are received. In a moment of introduction, your eye color might quietly communicate something about who you are, or rather, who others expect you to be. And this can have subtle consequences. It might determine who people open up to, who they choose to confide in, or even who they instinctively move toward or away from. In this sense, eye color isn't just a feature, it's a social signal deeply tied to first impressions and early trust. One landmark study from Charles University in Prague found that brown-eyed faces were consistently rated as more trustworthy than blue-eyed ones. But when they digitally altered blue-eyed faces to brown, the trust ratings didn't change. The researchers concluded it wasn't just the color of the eyes, but the facial structure commonly associated with brown-eyed individuals. Broader jaws, softer features that influenced perception. Still, the association between brown eyes and emotional safety remains widespread, culturally reinforced by countless media portrayals. On the other hand, blue or gray eyes are sometimes unconsciously associated with detachment, aloofness, or cold rationality, not due to malice, but because of their light-reflecting properties. They appear brighter, sharper, more intense. In storytelling, the blue-eyed figure is often the hero, but also the emotionally distant one, the one who must learn connection. This archetype bleeds into social dynamics, leading to assumptions that may have little to do with the actual person. Our expectations become scripts we assign, sometimes without realizing it. Green and hazel eyes occupy a unique space in this perceptual spectrum. They are often seen as mysterious, creative, or emotionally complex. While this can inspire fascination, it can also create a sense of unpredictability. People may project depth or even danger onto green-eyed individuals, not because of anything they've done, but because we associate color with character, a projection Jung would call archetypal patterning. Hazel eyes, with their fluidity, tend to signal adaptability and emotional nuance, but they can also be misread, as people often seek clarity in others' gazes and struggle when that clarity is absent. This means that trust, as shaped by eye color, is rarely about truth. It's about pattern recognition, emotional memory, and unconscious archetypes. Eye color becomes a symbol, a shorthand for deeper psychological projections. When someone says, "There's something about their eyes I don't trust," they're often referencing not a fact, but a feeling, one rooted in experience, culture, and inherited narrative. Understanding these dynamics is not about reinforcing stereotypes, it's about becoming conscious of them. If eye color subtly influences perception, then learning to notice those impressions gives us back a measure of agency. It reminds us that trust is often based not on behavior, but on appearance filtered through emotion, memory, and myth. In a world where judgments are made in milliseconds, the eyes do indeed say something, but what they say depends as much on the observer as the observed. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of becoming aware of our projections, the unspoken beliefs and expectations we cast onto others. Eye color, then, becomes a lens not just into someone else's essence, but into our own psychology. What we see, or think we see, in another's eyes may reflect our longings, fears, or hopes. And when we become conscious of this, we begin to see people not as characters playing roles in our inner story, but as full beings with stories of their own, far more complex than color alone can tell. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the eye isn't just a sensory organ. It is a symbol of the psyche itself. The eye is a gateway, a mirror, and a metaphor for consciousness. It is how we see others, yes, but also how we are seen. And within that mutual gaze lies a deep psychological tension. To be seen is to be known, and to be known is to risk exposure. To risk that someone might see what we've hidden even from ourselves. Jung believed that symbols emerge from the collective unconscious, patterns and images that all human beings carry within, regardless of culture or era. The eye is one of the most ancient and potent of these symbols. In dreams, it often appears as an all-seeing presence, or as something damaged or obscured, reflecting the dreamer's relationship with insight, awareness, or the truth of the self. When we look into another's eyes, we are not just meeting a person, we are encountering their psychic field, their unique constellation of wounds, desires, and projections. Eyes appear across mythologies and religions as instruments of divine power. The eye of Horus, the eye of Providence, the third eye in Eastern traditions. All of these reflect the archetype of the seer, the one who perceives what others cannot. In Jungian terms, these are symbolic representations of the archetype of wisdom or the self, the totality of the conscious and unconscious mind. In this sense, eye color becomes a visual metaphor for archetypal forces at play. Blue eyes may symbolize clarity, detachment, or the celestial. Brown eyes may embody the earth, nurturing, and rootedness. Green eyes may point to transformation, emotion, and trickster energy. These are not fixed meanings, but evocative patterns, ways our unconscious organizes our experiences of others. This is why eyes in dreams or fantasies often carry a disproportionate emotional charge. They're not just about seeing, they're about being affected, being drawn into a deeper truth. The eyes also relate to the Jungian concept of projection. When we are unaware of parts of ourselves, our fears, longings, or unresolved wounds, we tend to project them onto others, and the eyes are a primary target. We might say someone has cold eyes, kind eyes, angry eyes, but often we are describing our own inner states, our own unresolved emotions being mirrored back to us. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Nowhere is this more evident than in how we respond to someone's gaze. A simple glance can stir admiration, distrust, vulnerability, or love, not because of the person in front of us, but because of what that gaze awakens within us. Eyes, in this way, become a symbolic bridge between the inner and outer world. They expose not just the other, but ourselves, our defenses, our projections, our deepest fears of being truly seen. To Jung, individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires us to confront and integrate the symbols that populate our dreams, instincts, and relationships. The eye is one of the most loaded of these symbols. It invites us to see clearly, both within and without. It asks us to move beyond superficial observation into a kind of psychological seeing, a gaze that penetrates illusion and defense. When we begin to understand eyes as symbols, not just features, we begin to relate differently. We soften. We become curious. We become aware of the emotional resonance carried in a glance. And perhaps most importantly, we begin to ask ourselves, what am I seeing in them that actually belongs to me? This shift in perception is powerful. It turns the eye from a passive object into an active mirror, one that doesn't just reflect others, but draws us into a more conscious relationship with our own soul. What if the true story your eyes tell has nothing to do with color at all? What if, beyond melanin, light refraction, and genetic inheritance, your eyes reveal something deeper, the essence of who you are, the current of your being, the quality of your presence in the world? From a Jungian perspective, the self is not fixed or visible in a literal sense, but it shines through, often most clearly in the gaze. And not because of the eye itself, but because of who's looking through it. There are people with piercing blue eyes that feel hollow, and others with dark brown eyes that radiate warmth like a hearth. You've probably met someone whose eyes made you feel instantly safe, or conversely, subtly threatened, not because of their color, but because of what you sensed behind them. The eyes, then, are not only mirrors of the soul, they are carriers of it. What they reveal is not data, but energy, a vibrational imprint of how present, how wounded, or how open someone truly is. When we look deeply into someone's eyes, we enter a realm where masks fall away. This is why sustained eye contact can feel so vulnerable, even overwhelming. It is a collision of inner worlds. Jung believed that individuation requires this kind of confrontation, not only with others, but with ourselves. The question is not, what color are your eyes, but what does your gaze reveal? Is it guarded, searching, inviting, heavy with history, or light with possibility? This is the gaze that transcends biology. It is shaped by our lived experience, our traumas, our joys, our heartbreaks. Eye color may shape first impressions, but it is the emotional current behind the gaze that truly defines what others feel when they look into our eyes. And that current, that charge, comes from our alignment with our own truth, from how deeply we've integrated our shadow, from how courageously we've met ourselves in our own darkness and chosen to remain open. We often ask, can I trust this person? But the deeper question is, does this person trust themselves? Because self-trust, self-awareness, is what animates the gaze with authenticity. The eyes of someone who has done their inner work don't seek to impress or manipulate. They simply see. They witness. They receive. Their gaze carries stillness, not the stillness of repression, but the stillness of someone who has found center. In this way, your eyes can become the most honest signal of your evolution, not in their color, but in their tone, their quality. A soft gaze doesn't mean weakness. A piercing gaze doesn't mean strength. What matters is whether your gaze reflects a coherent self, someone who is no longer fragmented by fear or projection. When we meet such a gaze, we feel it instantly. The presence of a soul that isn't pretending. A presence that doesn't need to be anything but what it is. So what do your eyes say about you? Not your iris, not the shade you were born with, but the story they carry, the grief they've witnessed, the dreams they still protect, the truth they refuse to look away from. What lives behind your eyes is more important than any pigment. It is the essence that others feel, even before you speak. And the more you come home to yourself, the more you become honest, whole, and free, the more your eyes will reflect that wholeness. Carl Jung believed that the journey of becoming is not about perfection, but about integration. And your eyes, living, conscious, reflective, may be the most powerful evidence of that journey. Not because they conform to any ideal, but because they radiate you, unmasked, unfiltered, unafraid. And in a world that so often rewards performance, there is nothing more magnetic, more real, than a gaze that says simply, I am. Throughout this journey, we've explored the rich layers of meaning behind something as seemingly simple as eye color, from biology and genetics to cultural symbolism, archetypes, and the unconscious stories we project. But ultimately, the color of your eyes is only the beginning of the story. The true narrative lies in what your eyes reveal about your inner world and how they connect you to others in a dance of recognition, vulnerability, and authenticity. Carl Jung taught us that the journey toward wholeness isn't about hiding or fitting into predefined roles. It's about facing ourselves fully, embracing shadow and light alike. Our eyes, in their unique hues and shifting depths, are intimate reflections of this process. They hold the story of our pain, our resilience, and our longing to be truly seen, not just by others, but by ourselves. When you look into someone's eyes and when you allow yourself to be seen in return, you're stepping into a profound exchange. It's a reminder that beneath surface appearances, beyond societal masks, lies the radiant truth of the self, complex, evolving, and beautiful in all its contradictions. So next time you catch your own gaze in the mirror or meet another's eyes, pause and remember, what you see is not just color or light, but the unfolding of a soul, a living story of becoming, healing, and ultimately connection. Your eyes are a testament to your journey. They are, in essence, the window to your true self.